Hi guys, I'm just gonna plug in my mic first and we're gonna start in like a few seconds. So I hope you can hear me. Alright, so today we're gonna talk about CPTSD. Alright, so PTSD. So I'm gonna share a little bit about CPTSD and how you can overcome that trauma that you incur and all of the intrusive thoughts and all of the bad things that you're doing to yourself, that not that you're doing to yourself, but you're kind of that you're programmed to do it to yourself. So how do we get away from it? That's what I want to touch on, and what are the exact steps that we can take. So for me, let me start with my story. So for me, it's my PTSD or CPTSD, whatever you'd like to call it. My PTSD started with a lot of intrusive thoughts, like a lot of sexual harassing thoughts. So like really vivid. I would call it pure OCD. If you have ever heard of pure O, you can quickly research it or look into it. But pure O is basically really obtrusive, really intrusive thoughts, really disgusting, vivid pictures of sexually disgusting pictures or thoughts related to really perverse and disgusting phenomenon. So those are kind of what I have to deal with based off of my PTSD as a result of PTSD. So with respect to that, if any of you have ever encountered those kind of intrusive thoughts, whatever it may be, for me it's sexual thoughts. So I find sex a very disgusting thing because my thoughts are really bad. It's really disgusting and disgraceful. So the first thing that I want to talk about is that it's not you. What these horrible intrusive thoughts, they don't define you, right? They don't define you because they are not you, they are not part of you. They have been sewn into your psyche, they have been sewn into your soul by your abuser. It is a program. It is not it is not your true self. So it is just what you have been brought up to believe by the narcissist. And because you have been groomed and conditioned to believe that it is you, that all those silly thoughts, it brings so much impact onto you. And because one thing leads to another, the impact eventually builds up, and you eventually feel like you're overwhelmed with it. Not only that, one thing builds up on another, and eventually it escalates. And why does it escalate? Because because you can't let it go. If you can't let go of one small thought, it eventually builds and builds and builds. And from compulsion, if you're constantly having to carry out compulsions and superstitions to soothe yourself from those horrible intrusive thoughts, then it will build up. All of those intrusive thoughts, it will build up. It will get worse and worse and worse because you try to repress it. You try to push it away. You try to forcefully, unnaturally silence it. And because of that, it just becomes worse and worse. So it is a self-fulfilling prophecy. So I wrote here, getting out of superstition with mindfulness. So we need to get out of superstition or compulsion. We need to get out of superstition or compulsion through mindfulness. Because if we keep using superstition and compulsion as a way of medicating ourselves temporarily, then it will get worse. It is like It is like a temporary self-medication that doesn't solve the core issue. That not only doesn't solve it, it causes long-term side effects that is very detrimental to our psychological health, emotional health, our holistic health. And it will just, it is permanent as well. It's nothing is ever permanent, but the effects are lasting, you know. So we need to get out of our superstition and our compulsion with mindfulness, and we need to get back in touch to reality. And how do we do that? The most easy way to do that is the physical technique. My physical technique is that I physically actively tell myself, like, overtly tell myself. I actually speak up to myself, and I say, if I knocked the table 3 times, or if I knock anything 3 times, I'm going to die right this second. And I knock it 3 times, and I'm not dead. So what does that say? It says that whatever you think, it's not real. Just because you think about it doesn't mean it's real, doesn't mean it defines you, doesn't mean it's going to come true, doesn't mean it's going to, it doesn't mean it's going to bring up, it doesn't mean it's going to affect the universe. If you stop it, if you stop giving so much energy, attention, fear, fear is a supply of energy. If you stop fearing it, if you stop worrying about it, if you stop giving it so much power, then it wouldn't bring about anything. It wouldn't cause things to shift in the universe. There wouldn't be any power to it. There wouldn't be any there's no it doesn't cause any shift in the universe. So basically, there's the forces of nature. The forces of nature is not affected if you stop giving so much power to your thoughts. So those thoughts that come up, what we can do is that we can follow the flow. Follow the flow and let the negativity build up within us. But we need to keep the intention gently and softly, simply and slowly. Keep the intention in mind that we want to direct our thoughts away from this negativity, gently, simply, in a relaxed, calm manner. It's not so bad to be in negativity. It's not so bad to have this disgraceful thought, this disgusting, perverse sexual desire, even. Because it is not you, and it's okay to it's okay to, not sink into it, but it's okay to let it come to you. But you need to keep the intention that, it's not okay to, to do, to act on it. It's not okay to act on it, but it's okay to have it inside of you, right? Well, but once it's inside of you, you need to be okay with it, but slowly direct your intention, not your mind, not your body, not your physical, not being physically forceful, but just slowly direct your mind, your intention. You just have to intend to shift out of that, to have your intention pull away from negativity, to slowly and gently direct yourself out of the black hole. Understand the momentum of spiritual influences. So what that means is that we need to understand how things come to us and how it goes away, how it can fade away. So to let it fade away naturally, organically, we need to accept it. We need to not accept it and let it rape us, but we need to accept that, it's happening. We need to accept whatever is happening as is happening. It's happening right now. We need to accept it. Like, for example, it's if you fall because of gravity. Gravity is happening. You can't just deny gravity. Gravity is going to happen. So you can't deny it, because denying is only going to cause you a lot of pain and misery. Whereas if you accept it, it changes your experience, but you're still going to experience the same thing. If you fall off a cliff, you're going to experience the same thing. right? But if you are calm with it, then you can fall, you can fall to your death in a more uh, peaceful state, or you can fall to your death in a panic frenzy where you're probably gonna die in miserable state because you're you're so frazzled, and so like so caught up with the entire the weight of the experience. If you're falling off a cliff and you're okay with it, if you're peaceful, you can even find a solution out of it. You can even find a vine or a place nearby that you can rescue yourself with anything around. You can be more aware of your environment and kind of save yourself. Maybe there's a water nearby, you can push yourself to the water, fall in such a way that you fall into safety, rather than just panicking and just letting the environment control you, letting forces have power over you. You can actually have power over the forces. So how do we gain power over natural forces? That is a very difficult thing to do, but but it is a very easy thing to do once you know how to do it. So the reason I say it's easy, it's because you need to it's not easy to get there, but it's easy in a sense that you need to ease into it. It's not a forceful thing, it's an easy thing. It's a gentle, relaxed effort. It's a relaxed effort. It's not a forceful, strong effort. It's a very easy effort. It's not easy as in it's very simple. It's easy as in it's relaxed. So it's very difficult to get into that state of mind, to that state of ease. But once you're at that state of ease, when you can finally understand the flow of events, once you can finally understand how things build up and how they can slowly fade away, then you can direct your attention at just the right moment, at just the right you can even move your body at just the right moment, to direct your attention away from negativity. So we need to allow ourselves to allow the negativity to build up, but also keep the intention that we want it to go away. We want it to go away, but we are not so caught up with it. We are not so, we're not so, we don't want it too badly. We are just softly, gently keeping that intention, and then we accept it. We accept the evil, the negative forces within us, and then we slowly let it go away. You know, but we accept that. We need to accept that it's gonna stay there as long as it wants, but we need to not let it bother us. When we are no longer bothered by it, when we are able to continue with our life without letting any the bad things affect us, then it will slowly fade away. We don't even realize that it fade away sometimes. So we need to understand the momentum of spiritual influences, the momentum of it, and then you right, that you can't omit it just like that. You need to move with it and guide it out of your life. So move with it. We need to move with the negative, right? We need to momentum, right? Momentum means that we need to understand how the influences come about, and then how in the same way we can slowly guide it out of us, right? How it builds up, and in the same way we can slowly move it out of us, right? In the same way, it's almost like a reverse mechanics sort of thing. uh, yeah, so we need to move with it. These are very important words. That's why I keep repeating them. Sorry if I sound like I'm repeating myself, but these words are so important to hear, because when I first realized these things, I kept reading these things. I kept reading the same words and the same phrases, and it helped me a lot. So that's why I keep repeating it. So what I want to repeat is that we need to move with it. We need to move with our intrusive thoughts, move with our negativity, move with our shame and our guilt and whatever feeling that we have, disgrace. We need to move with it, move into it, but not too like not we need to move into it not too deeply, not too not get overly involved with it, not be consumed by it, but we need to move with it. We need to accept it to some level. So it's a balance here, right? We need to not be totally consumed by it, but we also need to not totally reject it, right? We need to not deny it and just push it out of our out of sight, out of mind, sort of thing. We need to accept it. It's a balance between moving into the negativity and wanting it and pushing it away. So we need to move into it. The first thing we need to do is move into negativity, and then slowly keeping the intention of keeping the intention of wanting it to go away. We move into it. So it's almost like a double direction sort of thing. So we move into it, but we keep the intention. The intention is over here. So imagine a string attached to this ball over here, and imagine you're here, and imagine the right side, or whatever this direction is. This side is negativity, and this side is positivity. So you move towards negativity, but you have a string attached to this ball of positivity, right? But over the other end of positivity is neglect and just total denial. So we don't want denial, but we do want a sense of humanity and morality. So we want this ball over here, but we need to move towards negativity. Why? Because we are being pulled and tugged by negativity, and if we refuse it, then we are gonna destroy our own defenses even more. So we need to allow ourselves to move with the negative forces. We move with the natural evil spirits, to move with the negative forces of the universe, but not completely obey it. Just be moved by it, moved by it to a small degree. So move with it, but also imagine the string to the ball, and imagine the string becoming more and more taut. It's a flexible string, so more and more taut, and eventually you are kind of pulling back, out of momentum, right? It's almost like a motion thing, right? It's you're this is the ball and this is the string. So you're moving here and slowly you're coming back. Boom, right? You're moving here and you're going back. You're moving here and you're going back. So you're never really on the both ends of the extreme. Both ends of the extreme, where one is denial, where the other is complete consumption, completely being overwhelmed and tortured by those horrible thoughts. So you're never on both extremes, because you play around with those two those two soft points. So you need to allow yourself to adjust between the two positions of neutrality, between the two positions outside of neutrality. So it is very tempting for ourselves to stay neutral, to stay in the state of complete peacefulness, complete morality, complete perfection. It is very hard for us to stay there. And we shouldn't force ourselves to stay there. It is very tempting for us to stay there as well. But once we do that, once we try so hard to stay there, then everything becomes very, very difficult, because when evil is pulling at you like crazy and you resist it, two things is going to happen. Either you're gonna lose your guard, and at one moment, because evil will never stop, right? At one moment you're gonna either lose your consciousness for a second or a millisecond, and within that 1 millisecond, what evil is gonna do is it's gonna drag you all the way there. And when you're all the way there, you'll be completely crippled. You'll be completely bawling and crippled and destroyed, psychologically assassinated, psychologically annihilated, right? You're gonna be completely out of your mind, consumed entirely by all those intrusive, horrible thoughts, and identifying with those thoughts, feeling like shit, feeling like horrifying shame and disgrace. You feel so like you don't even deserve to be human, that kind of feeling. Either that, or the other thing is you're gonna be successful at pulling away. But what's happening is, because you're resisting so hard, that once the evil releases its grip, you're gonna fall to the other end, right? Once evil releases grip, you're gonna fall to the other end. And what's the other end? The other end is complete denial, complete suppression, complete repression and suppression of your needs, of your issues, all of your unresolved issues, your trauma. Everything is buried deep within, and it's not resolved. It's just buried, and it's almost like you have an unsettled kind of you have an unsettled feeling. It's almost like you feel like something is not right, but you're just denying it. You're just putting it away, putting it aside out of your mind. But you know within yourself that something is wrong, that something is wrong, that it's not supposed to go like that. It's unnatural. So if you force yourself so hard, you're either gonna lose your guard and go there, or you're gonna be so strong that you push all the way to complete denial, right? So what I want to what I recommend you to do is that you should allow yourself to pull that way, but also slowly pull out of it. It's almost like you let yourself go here and then you pull out of it, right? You let yourself go here but also pull out of it, right? It's almost like kind of a fish. I had a video of the fish being eaten, but I'm not sure if I can pull that out for you. I might try later to pull out the fish video. So basically, it's kind of like a fish being eaten by another, a bigger fish that was lying in wait for it. So it was eaten by it, but it allowed itself to be eaten by it for a few seconds, and then slowly it thrashed about. It thrashed about, and it slowly come out of the bigger fish. So basically, the bigger fish kind of, because it's kind of struggling in its throat. The bigger fish had to open its mouth and let it go, because it was so uncomfortable for the big fish. So that's an analogy for it. I'm not sure if I can show you the fish. I can't remember where I saw that from. Let's just ignore that for now. So right, so understanding the momentum of spiritual influences, that's very important, right? The momentum of trauma. So another thing is we need to be not too careful, right? Don't be too careful in avoiding intrusive thoughts or disturbing desires, right? Sometimes you have desires that is not you, that you don't even know if it's you, but it's disturbing. It's not right, but you have them, and you feel like maybe it could be, maybe you really want it. So let me just continue with that. We shouldn't be too careful in avoiding intrusive thoughts, because that can lead to addiction to perfect morality and perfect spirituality, and that in turn lead to self-destructive compulsions, right? And when we are and these persistent compulsions keep your attention and energy bound to negativity and low vibrational energy and demoralization. So it keeps you bound to negativity, low energy vibrations, and demoralization. So that's what I talked about. I mentioned this just now about building up. The intrusive thoughts or the negativity that you're feeling, building up as a result of compulsion. So what compulsions do is that, whatever you need to do, it's almost like a physical thing or a superstitious thing that you do to get over to tell yourself that, oh, those thoughts will not come true, or they're not gonna become reality if I do this. If I do this, then it will go away. If I do that, then that will not happen again. Then I will not have those experiences again. But what that do is that you eventually become so reliant on that compulsion. You become so reliant on doing that, whatever it is, cleaning your hands, wiping your hands, or washing yourself, or whatever it is. If you keep doing that, eventually it's going to escalate. Eventually you're gonna do that more and more and more, and eventually you're gonna be so dependent on that compulsion that that when you stop doing it, it becomes too much to bear. Not only that when you stop, the compulsion is going to be too much to bear, but also that the more you indulge in your compulsions, the more you're putting a band-aid, you're putting duct tape over a horribly damaged wall, horribly damaged thing. You're putting a band-aid on it. You're not actually putting medicine on it, right? You're just ignoring it, basically. So all these compulsions, it also keeps your attention and energy bound to negativity. So what does that mean? That means that you're doing compulsion, you're not accepting your negativity, you're not accepting your intrusive thoughts, you're pushing them away with your compulsion. And when you're doing your compulsion, whether it's prayers or self-talk, or self-talk is it depends. Sometimes self-talk can be therapeutic, but if it's self-talk that is kind of compulsive, then it's not right. So what compulsion means is that you're doing a physical act to make sure that your thoughts your to make sure that your intrusive thoughts doesn't have any power anymore, to slow down your thinking, to make sure your thinking is to make sure those intrusive thoughts doesn't bother you anymore. So it's almost like a distorted way of healing yourself, right? Compulsion is a distortion of healing, right? It's almost like a false, not a false healing, but a very temporary healing, a temporary drug, but with long-term lasting side effects. So I'm sorry, I keep repeating myself. Sorry. So when you keep doing compulsions, what's going to happen is that you become more reliant on it, and also that it's going to come up even more. You're going to notice that these intrusive thoughts is going to come up even more, and it's going to come up with it's going to hit you with even greater force. It's going to become even worse. Not only is it going to be more frequent, it's going to be more impactful as well. The impact is going to be huge. It's going to be greater and greater, right? It's going to be more difference. Trust me, it does. And huge effort sometimes is counterproductive. Huge effort, huge forceful effort can sometimes be counterproductive and make the situation worse. That's why compulsions are so detrimental and so toxic, because it's not healthy, it's not right. It makes things worse. So another thing is, we need to accept our mistake and move on. We need to trust that it's just a glitch in our personality or a blip in our psyche. It's not really who we are, but it's just a glitch of who we are. It doesn't define us. you know and you'll trust that you will do better as well, and forgive yourself. Otherwise it will only escalate if you don't forgive yourself. You need to accept the negativity, accept that you made the mistake of allowing it to come in. Sometimes you don't have a choice because you're programmed to do so. But if you don't accept the program, if you don't accept that you're damaged, that you are shameful and you're disgraceful to some extent, then then if you don't accept that, then eventually you're gonna make the situation worse. And what I'm trying to say is not that you need to accept that you're disgraceful. No, you're not. You need to accept that you bear the burden of the programming that makes you believe that you are disgraceful. You need to accept the burden of the program. You need to accept the burden of the programming that makes you believe that you are disgraceful, right? You need to accept that programming, not accept that you're disgraceful. Know that it's not true that you're disgraceful, but accept that feeling of disgracefulness, right? Accept that feeling, but not that knowledge. You are not disgraceful. Know that you're not disgraceful because it's just a thought. It doesn't define you. It doesn't determine your personality, your life, who you are. but you need to accept thoughts. So trust yourself, right? Trust that it is just a glitch in your personality. Trust that it is not you. Forgive yourself if you truly believe that you're responsible for it, but know that it is just a programming. So there is no such thing as too late. Another important point is that there is no such thing as too late. So this is the weight that I was talking about, the weight of the weight of the cumulative weight of all of these intrusive thoughts. So the more thoughts you have, we have this program, we have this psychological wiring within us, within humanity, I would say, within society, within all of society. We have this wiring that what we did in the past defines who we are. And what we did in the past is gonna is it's a huge indicator of what we are going to do in the future, of what we are about to do in the immediate future, of what we are doing right now. So what we did in the past is a huge indicator of our behavior at present and in the future. So that is not true. Why is that not true? Because it's you get to define who you are. You get to define your own identity, your own consciousness, your own beliefs. Whoever you are, you get to decide for yourself at this moment, right now. You get to decide, you get to choose. And if we have this belief of what we did in the past will define who we are right now, will determine what we are going to be in the future, then that's going to bear a huge weight on us. It's going to be a huge baggage, you know. So what I wrote here is that we need to let go of our mistake baggage, right? We did mistakes. We did mistakes in the past. Sometimes when I have an intrusive thought, sometimes I go with it. Sometimes I act with it. And sometimes I feel really bad because I have to say that I'm responsible for that. If I act with that horrible intention or horrible thought, then I'm actively allowing it to take over my identity. And what happens is that I'm responsible, right? In that case, I have to admit that I am responsible for that action because I allowed the intrusive thoughts to dictate what I do, what I say, and what I continue to think, right? And that that is what I have to be responsible for. That is true, but it does not determine who I am about to be or who I am right now. I can always change that. I always have the decision, I always have the free will to change my circumstance right now. I always have the choice to do that, the option to do that, right? So we need to let go of our mistake baggage. Whatever mistakes we did in the past, we need to let it go and not let it define who we are right now, not let it determine our future, right? And how we can do that is that we need to bury our past actions. Bury our past actions and don't let them define your present self and your entire fate. The past me isn't me anymore. The past me isn't who I am right now anymore, right? Don't react quickly. Sorry, that's another one. So what I'm trying to say is that we need to not let it accumulate. It's a very accumulative weight. So we need to not let our negativity accumulate over time. Because if we don't let go of a past mistake, then it's gonna stay there. It's gonna affect it's gonna affect our action, speech, and thought in the future. And not only that, it's gonna create more and more negativity, right? And what happens when there's more negativity? That more negativity is gonna be another cumulative weight. So basically, the weight becomes even more heavy. It becomes exponentially heavier, And when it becomes exponentially heavier, eventually you're gonna be so consumed with that mistake baggage, you're gonna be so consumed by that weight, by that baggage of your past mistakes, that you're gonna give up. You're gonna believe that it's too late. You're gonna believe that it's too late for you to good, or to turn back from evil, or to turn back from disgrace. You're gonna believe that it's gonna be too late for you to turn away from shame. You're gonna believe that there is no point of return, that you have reached this point of no return, right? You have reached, it's illusory, because we can always decide to change at the present, the power of present moment, you know. So that's very important, right? But another thing, one last thing I want to talk about CPTSD before I share some online resources with you guys, is that it is a program. Like what I said, it is a program. So it is very easy for us to be tempted by these intrusive thoughts, and to be haunted constantly by these persistent intrusive thoughts, these psychotic thoughts, this disgraceful, demoralizing, dehumanizing, shameful, disgusting, disturbing thoughts, and feelings as well. The feelings that can make the thoughts so vivid. All these accompanying feelings, and sometimes even sexual arousal, or physical arousal of some kind. It's so real and vivid, that it's very hard to get over it, and because it's a programming. So we need to understand that it's not you, it's a programming. Some people believe that they are being haunted by spirits, that they are being spiritually harassed, that they are being demonically disturbing, that they are being interfered by demons. But I truly believe that it is a program. It is a program that we have been that have been installed into us by our abuser, carefully installed through covert means, through triangulation, through gaslighting, through all of those horrible covert strategies. It's so covert, and it's so carefully, meticulously planned down to the finest detail, that it instills this program into us. This program that is so solid, that is so prominent, that is so embedded deep within us, that it is very, very, very difficult for us to rake it out, to eliminate it, to curb it, to heal it, to remove it from our psyche. But we need to do it slowly. That's why I tell you, we need to do it slowly, small effort, and gently. Forgive yourself. Always know that it's the program, it's not you. And the final thing I want to touch on is that we need to not react so quickly, right? The one thing, the main thing about compulsion is that we are responding very quickly, right? For me, when I have a horrible thought, my it's almost like an instinct. It's almost like I don't even think, I just react, right? It's so quick a reaction that I don't even feel like I'm doing the wrong thing, you know. So what I do is that when I have this horrible thought, I push it away. I retract into myself. I retract into my deeper self. I call it my deeper self, but really it's just an act of just retreating into my shell, basically retreating into the shell. And what that does is that I can feel my brain cells degenerating. I can feel my brain cells degenerating because I was just primitively retracting, just like retracting and not thinking, like, oh, I shouldn't do that. No, I shouldn't do that kind of thing. It's like so completely retractive, that I lost my ability to think. My brain cells degenerated, and my energy becomes what's the word? Becomes debilitated. My energy becomes debilitating, becomes self-destructive. It's not I lose my vitality, I lose my virility, I lose my power and my strength. I become so retracted within myself that I lost everything. I lost my personal space, the space that I own. I lost ownership. I lost ownership to my brain cells, to my body, to my consciousness, to my being. I lost ownership. And what happens when you retract to yourself is that you lose ownership. You gave up your ownership. So that is what I should not have done, because that is a reaction. Whenever someone bullies me or abuse me, or whenever there is a spiritual disturbance or whatever, I retract. That's the immediate reaction, right? And we need to be able to notice that. Once we are able to notice what we are doing, what we are reacting out of instinct, how we react to things, what the react, what the response is, we can realize that, then slow down our response. And when we slow down our response, we can think clearer, we can find the solution. Every problem has a solution. Let me repeat that. Every problem has a solution. And when you are able to slow down your response, you're able to access, I talked about this in my previous video, when you're able to slow down your response, you're able to access infinite options. You're able to access infinite response. You're able to see that there are so many different responses that you can take to face whatever you're facing, to cope with whatever you're facing, and what we are programmed to do is that we are programmed to confine ourselves to this small negative sphere of negative responses, this sphere of negative responses. We are confined within this realm of negative response, right? We are always instinctively responding negatively to any adversity that we face. So that is not healthy. We need to slow down our response, and we need to recognize, and to do that we need to be open to attrition, be open to harassment, be open to harassment by our negative thoughts, right? We need to be open to that to some degree, not completely, but to some level, to a small degree. We need to be open to harassment so that we can slow down our response and respond in a sensible way, not in a primitive way, right? In a sensible human way, and possibly a divine way. So basically we need to accept some part of the abuse so that we can develop the right strategy to push away completely the abuse. But this is not abuse that I'm talking. This is CPTSD. This is right. So trauma. This is not abuse that I'm talking about. Sorry, but this is trauma. So we need to accept some level of trauma so that we can slowly shift out of the trauma completely. We can't turn accordingly completely that like that. No, it's not how. So we need to accept some part of it. We need to accept the weight, some weight of the negative experience from some of the programs that we have been solved to us. I mean, of it, so really shift out of it, forcefully pushing it away. That's not going to work. It's only going to make things worse. So right now I'm going to share with you some resources, some online resources on CPTSD and what it's about, how it come about, and how you can save yourself, how you can protect yourself from it, defend yourself from it. So the source is over here, right? So this is, I'm not sure how to pronounce the site, but I think you can see it over here. The site is over here. So it's called, right, arielschwartz.com, I think. drarielschwartz.com, right? So he wrote about an article on the the Polyvagal Theory, and Healing Complex PTSD, Dr. Ariel Schwartz. So I'm gonna just touch on adaptation as survival, the polyvagal theory, attention response bias, and the takeaway. Right? He made some really good points, so that's why I want to read like most of the article. Probably just just the introduction that I'm going to skip through. So adaptation and survival. Adaptation as survival. If you have grown up in a chronically threatening environment, you probably had to adapt to survive. Adaptations occur emotionally, behaviorally, and within the nervous system. These are characteristic for complex PTSD or CPTSD. For example, you might have carried toxic shame, learned to avoid potentially dangerous situations, or dissociated when you couldn't escape. All of these behaviors, However, as adults, all of these behaviors may have once served an important purpose. However, as adults, these same behaviors often create problems in your relationships, ability to parent children, or to be successful in your work. One key to healing from CPTSD is to develop self-compassion. The polyvagal theory teaches us that post-traumatic stress symptoms are biologically based and somatically experienced. Once you understand the physiology behind CPTSD symptoms, you realize why you cannot simply think your way out of the trauma reactions. While you might continue to repeat the behaviors that helped you survive, it is essential to learn how to lean into yourself with love. The polyvagal theory. The polyvagal theory describes three neural circuits that underlie different ways of negotiating with our environment. Sorry guys, I'm like doing a bad job at reading. Let me do that again. So the polyvagal theory describes three neural circuits that underlie different ways of negotiating with our environment. So when we feel safe, we rely upon a neural circuit that promotes social engagement behaviors. He calls this the social nervous system. This part of the parasympathetic nervous system engages neural structures that inhibit our defensive systems. This relies upon the myelinated ventral vagus nerve, which allows us to engage socially by making eye contact, softening our voice tones, and expressing care with our face. Importantly, the social nervous system can facilitate immobilization within a context safety to promote greater closeness or intimacy. Initially, when we experience a threat, we might rely upon Initially, when we experience a threat, we may rely upon our social nervous system to resolve a situation. We might reach out for connection or proximity with another or establish safety. We might reach out for connection or proximity with another to reestablish safety. However, if this is unsuccessful or if the threat is more extreme, we will begin to engage the sympathetic nervous system activation of fight or flight. However, if this is unsuccessful or if the threat is more extreme, we will begin to engage the sympathetic nervous system activation of fight or flight. If we are unable to resolve the threatening situation by fighting or fleeing, then we will begin to engage an unmyelinated, evolutionarily older part of the vagus nerve to survive. This is especially the case in situations that are life-threatening, in which there is no escape. The dorsal vagal neural pathway is also part of the parasympathetic nervous system. However, this time, immobilization becomes a defensive response. Typically, this is referred to as the faint response. Sometimes one can literally faint because the dorsal vagal pathway reduces blood flow to the brain. Short of fainting, this defensive pathway can lead to symptoms such as dizziness, nausea, or fatigue. Nausea or fatigue, all symptoms of dissociation. Right. Short of fainting, this defensive pathway can lead to symptoms such as dizziness, nausea, or fatigue, which are all symptoms of dissociation. Your physiology not only holds the memories of trauma, but also holds an important key to recovery. The Polyvagal Theory points us towards another key to healing. Your capacity to engage the social nervous system. You can facilitate health of your social nervous system by developing mindful awareness of your body sensations, such as your heart rate or your breath. This helps you to identify your own personal signs of stress and allows you to respond right away before the stress feels overwhelming or out of your control. Attention response bias. Unfortunately, people with complex PTSD have a difficult time orienting to safety. Even in situations where there is no current threat, this is because it can be difficult to differentiate between experiences that occurred in the past and what is happening right now in the present moment. The past and the present tend to get blurred because the physiological alarm bells that continue to sound. The past and present tend to get blurred because of the physiological alarm bells that continue to sound. This process is referred to as attentional threat bias, a factor that maintains and exacerbates post-traumatic stress symptoms. Attentional response bias accounts for the greater likelihood that individuals with PTSD perceive neutral faces as aggressive and fearful faces as angry. Furthermore, once a threat has been perceived, these individuals often have difficulty disengaging from the stimuli. In other words, they persevere on the perceived threat, and it becomes more and more difficult to feel safe. This can perpetuate a chronic state of fight or flight, which leads to a vicious cycle of anxiety. This is why it is often difficult for individuals with CPTSD to develop healthy, lasting relationships. First, there may be little or no history of actually having safe and nurturing people in your life. Secondly, it is harder to perceive people as safe and nurturing even when they are. However, research shows us that attentional control can help reduce attentional threat bias. What this means is that as you focus on your attention on cues that let you know that you are safe, now you can learn to override the drive to focus on threats. Of course, this only works if indeed you are in a safe situation now. Practice attentional control helps you to become a better detective and eliminate false positives in which you perceive a threat in a situation or person who is actually safe. As you become able to recognize the you begin to inhibit unnecessary defense activation in your body and mind. So, as you become better able to recognize the safety cues in your environment, you begin to inhibit unnecessary defensive activation in your body and mind. So, basically, for example, when you're alone in your own room, or when you are, when you're out of an abusive relationship, when you're in a safe environment, sometimes you can feel very unsafe because of PTSD, because of recurring thoughts, because of triggers, actions or things that happen in your life that can be triggering, and that can bring up a lot of trauma for you, that can bring up a lot of all of those abuse, that can make you relive all of those abuse that you had to go through. So that is very painful to constantly be to be over vigilant, to be constantly threatened by everything that you see, hear, touch, smell, everything. It is very stressful, and it's very detrimental to your health, and it's so painful to do that constantly being in threatened mode, being in survival mode all of the time. It is very, very horrible. So slowly recognize the safety cues. For example, when you're alone, no one can harm you, no one can break into your room, no one can break in. Recognize that. Acknowledge the fact that no one can come near you right now. That is one of the things that you can do when you're alone. Or another thing you can do is that your abuser is gone now. Your abuser cannot reach you now. You have established no contact now. Nothing is gonna, they are not gonna be able to infiltrate you now. Even if they triangulate you, even if they send flying monkeys and enablers and everything, you can still feel the relief that you don't have to face them anymore. You don't have to face them directly, face to face anymore. That is one of the gift that you have to recognize, that you have given yourself. You have given yourself the gift of no contact. Appreciate that. Recognize the effect of that, right? The immediate, not the immediate, the physical effect of that, right? Physically, you don't have to face your abuser, and that is a huge safety sign. So the takeaway: healing from CPTSD involves recognizing that there is another way to live. You are not doomed to repeat the patterns of your past. You can use the Polyvagal Theory to help you heal from CPTSD using the following important steps. Self-compassion. Develop self-compassion for your symptoms. Recognize the physiological somatic basis of symptoms and why you cannot simply think your way out of your trauma reactions. Develop somatic awareness. Learn to mindfully track subtle changes in your body sensations, and your heart rate. Identify your own personal signs of stress. This will help you respond right away before the stress starts to feel overwhelming or out of your control. We call this staying in the window of tolerance. Develop somatic awareness, right? Mindfully track subtle changes in your body, right? So that whenever it arises, however small it is, you can immediately anticipate that it's gonna come, and you can do something about it, right? So develop somatic awareness. Our body is very, how we feel in our body, our physical sensations, is directly related to how we feel in our psychology, in our mind. It's very, very, the link is very, very obvious. It's very direct. So practice attentional control. Practice focusing your attention on specific cues in your environment that remind you that you are safe now. Look around your room. Notice the light filtering through a window, a piece of art on the wall, or how it feels to be reading this article, how it feels to be listening to this video. You can also listen to a favorite piece of music. Hold an object in your hand, or notice the calming scent of an essential oil. Anchor yourself to your present moment. Anchor yourself with your surroundings, with your presence, right? With your present environment. Nothing is happening to you right now. There's no abuse that is happening to you right now. It is all in the past. You are safe now. If you're safe now, then you need to recognize that. You need to recognize that you're safe, and get the abuser out of your mind, get the abuse out of your mind. How do you do that? You anchor into your physical world, your physical surroundings. You anchor into reality. Abuse is not happening right now. So why should you think about it? Why should you let it consume you when it's not happening right now? Now I know these are like a bit condescending and a bit like easier said than done kind of thing, but it's important to remind you guys, to keep saying these things to you guys so that you guys know, and it's almost like a programming as well. I want to program into your subconscious that that you are safe, that you need to keep being aware of your status quo, your situation. Are you safe right now? You are safe right now. Why? Because you're in your room, no one abusing you. There's you're completely safe right now, and you need to anchor into that. Okay, remember, you are myelinating the neural pathways of your social nervous system every time you feel safe, connected to another person, or compassionate toward yourself. Each time you practice strengthening your social nervous system, it will become stronger. You can change your physiology one day at a time, and over time it will become easier to connect to positive states and override defensive symptoms associated with post-traumatic stress. So heal and learn with Dr. Ariel Schwartz. If you want to get his book, you can do so. EMDR therapy and somatic psychology. Somatics is very, somatics, I love somatics because it is very therapeutic, somatic awareness is somatic dance as well, somatic therapy, somatic movement. So for me, I love somatics because it is so it lets you, it brings you back to your body. It brings your awareness to your body, and you're able to access this bodily intelligence, that lets you know what you need to do. Because this bodily intelligence is linked. It is linked to it is linked to our ancestors. I call it ancestral intelligence. It is this body that we have. It is a descendant of our ancestors. And what our ancestors have that we don't is experience of abuse, experience of surviving, experience of transcending, experience of reaching divinity, experience of life. And we have so many, like we have generations of ancestors, and all of those the wealth of all of those experiences, knowledge, wisdom, and intelligence, they are all accessible to us if we connect to our body, if we allow our body to speak to us, if we listen to our body. Then those ancestral intelligence we are able to access those ancestral intelligence. We are able to connect to our ancestors, and we are able to use that intelligence to help us solve any of our problems, to help us with any of our life issues. So this is very, this is very therapeutic. And why is it therapeutic? Is because it's organic. You don't have to force it. You allow your body to speak to you. You allow your ancestral intelligence to come back to you. You allow your intuition to break open, to break out of its shell. You give voice, you give power, you give energy to your intuition. You appreciate your intuition, and your you give it your life force. And when you do that, it's gonna repay you by giving you access to this infinite infinite intelligence, infinite wisdom, infinite consciousness, infinite like insight, infinite insight and enlightenment, that you're going to be able to deal with anything in your life. So that's why it's so important to connect to your body. And on some moments when I'm practicing somatic movement, I can feel like I can feel like there's truly nothing in the world that I cannot answer, that every question in the world has an answer, and I know the answer to all of them. I felt like that, when I truly connected to that true self through somatic movement. There are a few moments where I felt like that, where I felt like there's no question in the world that I cannot answer, that there's no problem in the world that I cannot solve. It is that vast power that I get from accessing the huge pool, the infinite pool of knowledge and wisdom and insight that ancestors possess, that our ancestors have acquired, that we have acquired. We are we are a descendant of our ancestors, so we are basically connected to them. We are them in a sense. So basically, their wisdom is our wisdom, and we need to just allow ourselves to open ourselves to that wisdom. Allow ourselves that that power, that wisdom that we already have within us. So that is what somatic movement allows you to do. That is why I love it so much. So keep researching on somatic movements if you want to get into that. It's very, very therapeutic, especially for PTSD. So right now I'm going to move on with this article on CPTSD, and then I'll go on to psychic harassment or astral rape, which is another interesting topic. But let's put that aside for now. I'll get to that in another like 10-15 minutes. So PTSD, let's go into the symptoms. The following are examples of trauma that can cause complex PTSD. Sorry, this is trauma, not symptoms, but the trauma that can cause CPTSD is that you experience childhood neglect, experiencing other types of abuse early in life, experiencing domestic abuse, experiencing human trafficking, being a prisoner of war, living in a region affected by war. So I want to go to the symptoms now. All right. Right. Common symptoms of PTSD and complex PTSD include reliving the trauma through flashbacks and nightmares, avoiding situations that remind them of the trauma, dizziness or nausea when remembering the trauma, hyperarousal, which means being in a continual state of high alertness, right? Hypervigilance, right? The belief that the world is a dangerous place. It is getting more and more dangerous, by the way, because of the rise in narcissism and psychopathy. More and more psychopaths in society, in the work environment, and more are getting promoted, and more psychopaths and narcissists for politicians and rulers of not governments, officials, authority figures. More and more narcissists there. So what's gonna happen when the world is ruled by narcissists? It's gonna be hell. So it is a dangerous place in my opinion. But it can, with CPTSD, it can get so much that there is no relief. That the world is so horrifically dangerous that you don't even want to get out of bed anymore. That the only way out is suicide. So that is the severity of the severity of PTSD, of the delusion that the world is a horrifyingly dangerous place, that is so dangerous that you can't do anything about it. That is that is the severity of this delusion that comes from PTSD. But it's not too far from the truth. You know what I mean? The world is a dangerous place. So a loss of trust in the self or others, difficulty sleeping or concentrating, being startled by loud noises. So I want to talk a little bit about this loud noises thing. Recently, there is this electronic harassment thing that I've been talking about in my videos. But this loud noises thing is basically how they infiltrate you. Some psychopaths, my neighbors especially, they make a lot of loud noises so that they will get your attention. They want to get your attention. The minute you supply them with your attention, when they make those loud noises that is impossible to ignore, by the way, the loud noises which are impossible to ignore, if you don't let it go, if you don't let it pass through you, if you allow your attention to fall longer than a few seconds onto that loud noise, then they are going to rape you. They're going to astrally rape you, which is why I'm going to go through the astral rape later. But they're going to use their attention, they're going to focus their attention onto you, so much so that you feel so violated and disgraced and harassed that you don't feel like a human anymore. You feel completely dehumanized, demoralized. So that is what loud noises is all about, right? Uh, Boy, there is some truth to it. We need to be careful of loud noises, because that is how psychopaths or narcissists, that is how they get you to tune into their channel. And once you are in sync with them, that's how they infiltrate you and completely violate you and abuse you by using their attention, their intention, their focus, right? Their willpower. When they focus onto you, you can feel it. You can feel them focusing on you and having their attention onto you and focusing on you. And when people are focusing on you so strongly and stalking you 24/7, it is insane. You feel so violated. So what I'm trying to say is that you need to be careful of loud noises, not to be hyper vigilant about it, but just be, just be careful with it. Whenever it happens, tell yourself that it is just a noise. Go on with your life. Let it go. It's just a loud noise. Don't let yourself be investigated. Don't investigate it too much, and don't be pulled into it. Don't let your attention be pulled into that loud noise. Sometimes it's even intentional, and we feel what's the word, we feel offended by it. Don't be offended by it. Even if someone intentionally hurt you through loud noises, just let it pass through you. Don't let it affect you. Don't give any attention to it, because if you do, they're gonna go in for the kill. They're gonna break you even more. They're gonna harass you even more. So just let it pass through you. Don't give it any attention. But also don't be hyper vigilant about it, right? Don't be constantly looking, anticipating and fearing, when's the next loud noise that's gonna happen. Don't be bothered by that. When it happens, trust that you're gonna be able to deal with it. So people with PTSD or complex PTSD also experience a negative, this is the important part that I wanted to share. So people with PTSD or CPTSD may also experience a negative self-view. Complex PTSD can cause a person to view themselves negatively and feel helpless, guilty, ashamed. They often consider themselves to be different from other people. So they often consider themselves to be different from other people. Changes in beliefs and worldview. People with either condition may hold a negative view of the world and the people in it, or lose faith in previously held beliefs. Emotional regulation difficulties. Sorry guys, I'm not sure why I'm not reading well. Emotional regulation difficulties. These conditions can cause people to lose control over their emotions. They may experience intense anger or sadness and have thoughts of suicide. Relationship issues. Relationships may suffer due to difficulties trusting and interacting, and because of a negative self-view. A person with either condition may develop unhealthy relationships because they are what the person has known in the past. So they are not who they choose to be or who they want themselves to be, but they are defined by their past self. Detachment from the trauma. A person may dissociate, which means feeling detached from emotions or physical sensations. Some people completely forget the trauma. Preoccupation with the abuser. Preoccupation with an abuser. It is not uncommon to fixate on the abuser, the relationship with the abuser, or getting revenge for the abuser. So we are constantly fixated on the abuser, whatever it is, whether to get revenge or to continue the relationship, or to settle the score, or to reach a compromise or get a closure, whatever it is, we are constantly preoccupied with it, right? So symptoms of complex PTSD can vary and they may change over time. People with the condition may also experience symptoms that are not listed above. So the treatment is the treatment options for CPTSD include psychotherapy, eye movement desensitization, and reprocessing, or EMDR, and medication. Psychotherapy. Psychotherapy may take place on a one-on-one basis or in a group setting. Initially, therapy will focus on stabilizing the person so that they can address their feelings, including distrust and negative worldviews, improve their connections with others, deal adaptively with flashbacks and anxiety. The therapy may also use certain types of trauma-focused therapy, including cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, or dialectic behavioral therapy, or DBT. CBT focuses on replacing negative thought patterns with more positive ones. DBT helps people to deal with the stress, self-harm, urges. DBT helps people deal with stress, self-harm, urges, and suicidal thoughts and behavior. So EMDR and medication. EMDR is a technique that may help people with PTSD. After preparation and practice, the therapist will ask the person to recall traumatic memory. The therapist will move a finger from side to side, and the person will follow the movement with their eyes. When effective, this process helps to desensitize the person to the trauma, so that they can eventually recall the memory without having a strong adverse reaction to it. EMDR is controversial because the exact mechanisms by which it works is unclear. However, several guidelines include those of the American Psychological Association recommend EMDR as a treatment for PTSD under certain conditions. They caution that confirming the effectiveness of EMDR for trauma will require more research. So EMDR is very interesting because, part of the in my opinion, EMDR can be very effective because it is almost like psychological rewiring, right? Or psychological reprogramming, right? Where you are creating, whenever you're having that intrusive thoughts, you are doing something to give yourself to attach a different response to it, rather than having that having a trigger, having a stimuli trigger you into that trauma, into stress, into emotional turmoil. Rather than having those things trigger you, you can allow yourself to focus on another thing, whether it's listening to music, or allow yourself to find your own way out of it, right? A physical way, to shift your attention to so that it won't be so vivid, right? So that the trauma, the trigger, won't be so vivid to you anymore. How do you do that? When something triggers you, so how you do that is that when something triggers you, you create a stimuli for yourself, right? You create a separate stimulus. For example, when I have a horrifically sexual thought, right? What I do is that uh, I I drink water, for example, right? I drink water, and I'm aware of the water trickling down my throat. So every time I have a horrible thought, I will drink water. Or every time I recall an abuse, I will just like swipe the paper or whatever. That will bring my sensation, my physical sensation, my body awareness, my mental awareness to my action, my current action, whatever it is, and it will drag me out of that reality, out of that false reality of reliving the abuse. So that's EMDR. But doing too much of it can become a compulsion, and you can become so reliant on it, right? But it can be a very effective way to get out of, that cycle of that cycle of self, that cycle, that horrific mental pattern, the pattern of constantly self-destructive thoughts and intrusive thoughts. You can break out of that cycle. But I find that mindfulness would be better, to anchor yourself to your present moment and to not reject it too much. You do need to accept it to some level because it is programmed into you. You need to accept that it is a program, and it's impossible. Sometimes it is inescapable. It is unavoidable. So you need to compromise, right? You need to allow yourself to take a little bit of the damage, but also pull yourself back out. And each time you take on the damage, you take on less and less damage, being conscious that each time you face an intrusive thought, you're going to be less and less disempowered by it. You're going to be less and less affected by it. You're going to be less and less swayed by it, right? To allow yourself to sink into the trauma and the feeling less and less, right? But the first step is that you need to allow yourself to some level to be pulled by the unavoidable unseen forces of evil, or the trauma that is PTSD, right? When it triggers you, when the trigger comes, you need to allow the feelings to come as well, but also keep the intention in mind that you wanted to let it go, and bring yourself back to the present moment. Know that it's not you, it is just the programming, and slowly it will go away. And each time the trigger comes, it's going to have less and less impact. Why? Because you accept it now. You have accepted the damage. You have accepted the force. The inevitability. So once you've accepted that, it becomes easier and easier to bear, and it becomes easier and easier to recover. So I won't go into any more of it. Let's go into astral rape. So astral raping. So what is that? So I want to share my experience of astral rape. So what this means for me is that whenever I face a narcissist or a psychopath or whatever, they can be very harassing in a sexual sense. So whenever I meet them in the streets, or strangers, these are strangers, by the way, strangers that I don't know, neighbors and people who are very close by to where I live. So these people, they constantly, like, they don't need to physically touch you. They don't need to physically molest you. They only need to use their intention. They only need to have that intention to rape you, the intention to sexually harass you and violate you, the intention, right? They only need to have that intention. And when they do have that intention, it's almost like their spirit is able to come out of their body and rape your spirit. So it's like a spiritual rape thing. It's like, I feel, whenever this happens, I feel like my psyche, my aura, my energy has been raped, has been violated. It's not that it's been taken away. It's like it's been violated and messed up. It's like they just come infiltrate into my psyche, my aura, my consciousness, my energy, and just dismantle it and destroyed it. Just completely messed it all the way up, mess it away, mess it up. So it's very harassing. It's very violating for me. So and it's also very bizarre, and I feel like there's no way out of it. They will look at you a certain way that you can't counter. It's not possible to counter it. But like I said, every problem has a solution, but I still haven't found a solution for it yet. So these people, they would look at you a certain way. They wouldn't look directly at you. They would look at someone, and they would look at a space or someone else or at the floor. But the way they look at the thing, it creates this energy, it creates this force, it creates this piercing force that rapes you. And it creates this shield as well. They create this shield for themselves that you have no way of penetrating them. You have no way of accusing them. You have no way of fighting against them, fighting for yourself. You have no way of deflecting them. So it's a two-way thing. It's a double layered attack. The first layer is that they are using their social cues, and not just social cues. They're using barbaric cues to violate you sexually, and then they're using barbaric cues to protect themselves from facing the consequences of their actions, from facing any what was the word any objection to their actions, any objection to their abuse and violation, any form of fighting against them. So it's double. Not only are they attacking you, they are defending themselves for continuing to attack you, so that they can continue to attack you. So this can be very terrible, because there is no escape, there's nothing you can do, and they will just keep doing it. The only way is to avoid them, to avoid contact with them. I haven't found a way to get out of this abuse other than just avoiding them. But when I do, I'll let you guys know. And if you guys do, please leave it in the comments below, because this has been affecting me for so long. And I do believe there is some people say it's electronic harassment, where they use this microwave weapons to cause your body to react in a certain way, to make you feel certain things, to make your biological response to haywire your biological response, to cause your biological response and functioning to haywire, to hijack your psychology, to hijack your physiology, and mess with it. So that is some people say it's that mind control weapons, silent weapons, where they are using actual technologies, actual radar, wave frequency technologies, high frequency weapons to harass you. And some people say it's demonic possession. Some people say it's spiritual. So for today, I want to investigate the spiritual aspect of things. I've investigated the scientific aspect. Now I want to investigate the spiritual aspect. Why is this happening, and why is it that there is no way for us to escape? It's almost like a demonic hold. It's almost like they have this demonic hold on us that is inevitable. That it's almost like we are completely in their hands. So let's investigate this. I want to read this article from Ascension Glossary on astral rape. So, reading the article goes, sadly, it is all too common for human men, women, and children to be subjected to astral rape during sleep state. So this is during sleep state. For me, it's during the awakened state, where people would rape me, but at a distance. They wouldn't. Sometimes they are like miles away, but they can still rape me. I can feel their presence. I can feel their presence in my room, around me. It is so violating. Sometimes it doesn't last, but when it does happen, it is so violating. They infiltrate, they get inside my room and get inside my body and harass me. So that is very disturbing, because it's happening in broad daylight while I'm awake and I can't do anything about it. So during sleep state, for some people, is during their sleep state, which might be even more worse, because you're in a sleep state, which is a significant part of perpetuating the sexual misery program and carrying out trauma-based mind control, also referred to as satanic ritual abuse. So astral sex is very similar to regular physical intercourse. These kinds of astral encounters can be a dark manipulation and deception carried out by a reptilian or NAA entities to trick the person into believing that they are having a sexual encounter with a loved one or a fantasy object, or like their soulmate or a celebrity, to trick the person into sexual feelings or to perceive the entity as another identity during sleep state, while in the astral plane, most commonly is the use of, sorry, I think I read that wrong. So let me just start over. So to trick the person into sexual feelings or to perceive the entity as another identity during sleep state, while in the astral plane, most commonly is the use of holographic inserts placed into the person's astral body. So they are placing holographic inserts into your astral body. So we have an astral or etheric body, which is unseen. For example, if you close your eyes, you can feel your presence is not just your body. Your presence is your personal space. Your presence includes your personal space and the objects that you call your own, the objects that you own, the place that you own, the body that you own, the space that you own, the things that you own. Those are part of your identity. Those are your part of yourself. So that those things I would call your astral body. So when people infiltrate your astral body, sometimes they can, for example, when someone is trying to flirt with you, in a very intrusive way, they would take away your objects. They would look at your objects. For me, when someone is flirting with me in a very violating way, in a way that I feel is violating, some people might not, but I feel it's not right to flirt with people like that. It's not consensual. They would look at my objects. For example, if I have a backpack, they would look at my backpack and assume ownership of that backpack, right? They would assume ownership of it. They would believe that they own my object, that they own my backpack, and they would show to everyone, including themselves, including myself, that they truly believe that they own that object. And what happens when they own that object? That object is part of my astral body, because I used my backpack. I'm familiar with my backpack. I'm attached to my backpack. I am part of my backpack because I use my backpack every day to lectures. In the past, I use my backpack every day wherever I go. It is part of me. It is part of me, because I put my stuff in there. It is my stuff. Your stuff is part of your astral body. So when they infiltrate your astral body, they take ownership of your astral body. That's how they can plant ideas into you. They can plant ideas and suggestions into your head, into your mind. They can program you. They can install programs into you. They can make you do whatever they want, by infiltrating your astral body. So that is one of the ways they do it, by taking ownership of your stuff, your shit, your objects, the thing that you call your own. And some another way is that they infiltrate your personal space. They take away your personal space, and to show that they own your personal space, and in a way, and because they own your personal space, they own you. So that is how they infiltrate you. And when they own you, they can make you believe things that are not true about yourself. They can create holographic projections, right? Like this one, say holographic inserts. So let me just continue. Some alien abductees may endure sleep state astral rapes intermittently over a period of weeks, months, or years. This may start in early childhood and continue into adulthood, sometimes programming the abductees into over-sexualized behaviors, promiscuity, and destructive perversions. Feelings of powerlessness, fear, and despair, while inciting sexual arousal, are used to confuse and terrorize the abductee as they are being assaulted by the astral rapes, which these entities feed off of as loosh. So they make you, they not only do they terrorize you, not only do they harass you, they make you believe that you are the one that is responsible for creating those things, right? They make you believe that you are doing this to yourself, that you are the reason you're having these intrusive perversions, these disgraceful desires, and these perverted thoughts by making you feel, where is it, by making you feel powerless, fear, and despair, by making you feel shame, by inciting sexual arousal. That's a huge thing, inciting sexual arousal, right? They so astral rape. So when for example, when my perpetrator, when it's mostly girls for me, but some guys do it as well, but girls, when they rape me, when they astrally project and rape me, they would make me feel like I was, that I could have done something about it, that I could have avoided it, but I didn't. But in reality, there was nothing I could do, you know. And for men, they would usually create this sense of powerlessness. They would violate my personal space, walk all over me, and make me feel powerless. So that is the, that is the feeling aspect. They use your feelings to confuse you, to make you think that you are responsible, for being raped, that you are responsible for being terrorized by them, to confuse you. So educating ourselves to understand the current dramas happening on our planet with the NAA, which is the negative alien agenda. So I would say this is very related to the alien abduction reptilian shapeshifter thing, but I would say there are some truth to it. If you guys don't believe it, then there's nothing I can do about it. But it is happening right in my face, so I have no choice but to believe in it, because it's happening right in my face. So anyways, and the all too common spiritual abuses happening in the astral plane are educating ourselves to understand the current dramas happening on our planet with the NAA, or the negative alien agenda, and the all too common spiritual abuses happening on the astral plane are the first step to taking back our personal power by learning how to command personal space, protect your sexual centers, and re-educating ourselves to live in the law of one. When we comprehend the laws that govern our spiritual being, we may more easily call upon these universal laws to protect us from these spiritual abusers, which in many cases are direct negative alien attacks, such as astral rape. So we need to understand, the laws that govern our spiritual being. Once we can understand that, we can protect ourselves better. So I've no idea how to understand that, to be honest. But I will look into that closer and let you guys know if you guys are interested in, saving yourself from spiritual abusers. It is true, it is happening, and there are a lot of accounts I'll share later. A video on someone who who has undergone sexual rape. And there are a lot of videos, by the way. There are a lot of, you see, sleep paralysis, and my demonic rape in the lower astral plane. So this is where he's asleep and he's being raped by demons, right? By people who appear to be demons. So astral rape when he's asleep, and this one explaining astral rape again, prana violet healing and astral rape, right? Sleep paralysis and astral rape from another guy. Women sharing how PVH healed her from astral rape issues. Lady sharing dream that could have been astral rape and spiritual stalkers, right? So many different videos. Right, there are so many astral rape, right? Women in Rio de Janeiro sharing their experience on astral rape. So there are so many accounts, so many victims of astral rape out there. It's not just, I'm not making things up, and it's not just one article that's talking about it. It's happening around the world today, and it's getting more and more widespread. So there has to be some kind of spiritual forces going on around here, guys. So I'm just trying to let you guys see that this could be, not to dismiss this entirely, not to dismiss this alien abduction thing entirely. There could be some truth to it, because this negative force, this negative attacks is so bizarre and unhuman, is so inhumane, is not human, right? It's so non-human and bizarre that there has to be another explanation to it. There has to be another way out of it. There has to be some solution to it. So the NAA, or Negative Alien Agenda, promotes substance abuse. They promote substance abuse in all of its forms in order to gain full control over the human body, especially the sexual organs and brain waves. Once the NAA, or imposter spirits, are involved in the promoting of drugs in a human being who is unaware of their influence upon their mental state, thoughts, and cravings, these destructive behaviors easily lead into full-blown addictions. So full-blown addictions, they can come from just like possessions, basically. Addicts. So first is substance abuse, then is spiritual abuse, then it becomes full-blown addiction. So addicts lose their inner directional compass, and thus they have very poor discernment and lack the clarity required to comprehend or properly assess their environments. This combination makes it easy to trick and deceive. This combination makes it to trick, deceive, and hijack the person's light body, brain waves, and belief system, which allows entities to easily access their sexual organs and sexual energy. So when you lose your inner directional compass, and you have poor discernment, and you have lack of clarity, it becomes easy for these spirits, or these negative entities, to possess you, to take over your body, to take over your sexual organs and sexual energy. So drugs used in ritual. Drugs used in ritual can be considered as a form of drugs used in ritual can be considered as a form of black magic. Consciousness altering substances used during rituals are used in order to contact non-human intelligences, of which most of the time are very low-level spirits, demonics, and reptilians. Drug use allows the astral manipulation of the subject through the lowering of their light body frequency to levels that vibrationally connect with that particular type of entity. So they lower your vibrational energy to match their own, so that they can harass you and rape you and violate you. So drug use in the astral or using drugs to connect one's consciousness in the astral plane allow for easy latch on by all kinds of energetic parasites. All addictions of regular use of any kind of consciousness altering substance. All addictions are regular use of any kind of consciousness altering substance, whether alcohol, marijuana, cocaine, crystal meth, MDMA, or the many labbed substances used today in the clubbing environment, can lower the person's frequency to such levels. They can be used to such levels. They can be used through spiritual attachments. Where is it? All addictions are regular use of any kind of consciousness altering substances, whether alcohol, marijuana, cocaine, crystal meth, MDMA, or the many labbed substances used today in the clubbing environment, can lower the person's frequency to such levels that can be used through spiritual attachments, parasites, right? Can lower the person's frequency. This wording is faulty, so there is some error in the typo over here. So these drugs can lower the person's frequency to allow for spiritual attachments, parasites, possessions, or takeover by a reptilian entity that uses the body as a host. Any drug use is highly cautioned and not advised during the current war over consciousness on planet Earth. So there is a current war over consciousness right now. So please limit the drug use that your drug use. So right now I'm going to, what time is it? I think I'm gonna end soon, but I'm gonna just share this Quora thing real quick. So how do you protect yourself from astral rape? So I'm not sure why this answer is collapsed, but I think it's an okay answer. So I protect myself from astral rape by knowing the difference between reality and make-believe. A critical part of becoming a fully functional adult is knowing the difference between reality and make-believe. Astral rape, like unicorns, pixies, and other creatures, and the creatures with eyes in its hands in the movie Pan's Labyrinth, is make-believe. It is not real. So I want to say that it is real to some extent, but if our belief is a strong weapon. If we believe that it is not real to us, then it cannot reach us. So when we believe that it is not real, whatever happened with the narcissist, whatever abuse that we encountered, it is just a dream. There was nothing we could do about it. It is not real. We are not responsible for it. We are not held accountable for their abuse, right? Then it will eventually go away, right? These PTSD thing will eventually go away. But while it's happening, when it is happening to us, it can be very real and vivid and painful, right? It can be very tormenting and disturbing, especially this spiritual raping thing. I've been going through this a lot and still happening, and I don't know how to go through it. I don't know how to get over it. I don't know how to protect myself from it. So I'm still looking, and if you guys, if I find anything, I'll let you guys know. And if you guys have any suggestions or solutions, please share in the comment below. I would be very, very interested to know, because it's affecting me every day of my life. So yeah, it would be very helpful for me to know. What I'm doing right now is basically avoiding people, as much as I can, because it's happening everywhere. It's this war over consciousness. It's real, guys. And the reason I say it's real is because it's happening right in my face every time I go out. It's always happening. Even in my room sometimes, people are violating me, like astrally projecting into my room and harassing me. It's bizarre, and it's just insane. So another article I want to share, which is the last one before I get into dance therapy, is that what ghost rape teaches us about rape actually is. Okay. What ghost rape teaches us about what rape actually is. Okay. In her recent article, Holly Porter explores what rape is. The article suggests ways outsiders wanting to understand a context deeply impacted by decades of war might look beyond physically evident conditions. I'm not sure what that sentence means. It's so badly constructed. I mean, okay. Definitions of rape are far from straightforward. How it is or ought to be defined legally is the source of long-standing, often heated debate. How it is socially understood is likewise varied and fraught. For those who do research and write on the topic, it is also one of the first and most basic questions we must answer. How do we define rape? Ostensibly, this is a question of our methods. But if we dig a bit deeper, it is actually a question that goes far beyond operationalizing a concept to design a study. It is a question, but if we dig deeper, it is a question of what is. So rape can, the boundaries of rape, right? Sometimes people define rape as, energetic violations. When people are flirting with you without your consent, when people are being very, intrusive and coming onto you without you being aware of it, without when you're caught off guard, coming onto you in a very violating way, when your energies have been violated. People call that rape. For me, I would definitely call that rape because it feels so horrible, and the impact of it is that after the spiritual rape happens, it caused so much sexual disturbances to me, and it's almost like I felt so bad after participating, without having a choice to participate in that spiritual rape, in allowing myself to be raped without having any form of protection, without having any means of protection. That caused a lot of pain and a lot of psychological damage to me. So I would definitely define rape as energetic violation, any form of energetic violation or intentional non-consensual violation. If it is, if the person doesn't apologize or doesn't show remorse over it, or doesn't even care to stop violating you, stop being so sexually harassing, then it is not right. Then it is rape. Because they don't feel guilty about it. They don't stop what they are doing, and they intend to keep doing it. They are violating your rights, your energetic boundaries. They are breaking it. What is rape? What is rape? Is it a social, cultural, or legal construct? Is it a bodily experience? Is it an objective thing that exists apart from subjective human experience? After many years of working on this topic in the war and post-war context of northern Uganda, I want to suggest now that what I want to suggest now is that rape might be better understood as a sexual trespass on the boundaries of being. That's really good. Sexual trespass on the boundaries of being. We might implicitly assume that there is some significant shared understanding of what it means to talk about rape, often understood as a sexual experience somewhere along a continuum between personal agenda and bodily autonomy or integrity on one hand, and force or coercion on the other. In terms of its wrongness and whether it is criminal at different places and at different times, a line is drawn somewhere along the continuum separating acceptable sex and rape. Yet we know that notions of abhorrent sexual behavior are not universally shared. Even the most cursory survey of global sexualities confirms this, as does the discussion in the article of Al-Khali, Social Cultural Sexual Mores. Yet we would all generally, hopefully, agree that rape is bad. But what exactly are we talking about, and where does this threshold which separates sex that is okay from sex that is rape come from? Rape Without Bodies. My recent article, Rape Without Bodies, reimagining the phenomenon we call rape, explores the question of what rape is from different angles: legal constructions, social, cultural understandings, the body, And lastly, without bodies, ghost rape. My evolving thinking about this was all called into question over 2 years when a friend or interlocutor from Gulu told me a haunting, disturbing story about her sexually violent encounter with a malevolent spirit. She was extremely troubled by the occurrence, much as other women have been raped by flesh and blood men that I've spoken to over the years. It pushed me to reimagine what rape is and to think seriously about what the actually rather common experience of ghost rape might mean for this question. As the article explores, in some situations there is no or a weak concept of rape as a crime or even a social prohibition. But among those in my earliest study, I found that even when this is the case, often there is still an experience of it. There were women who described the rather common experience of being forced to have sex, particularly within marriage, and yet rape never ceased to be experienced as a violation. They described being forced to have sex as something which happens, implying a level of normalcy, but still as something which aggrieved them. Where does the threshold come from then? There seems to be something else in play beyond laws and social norms. Perhaps the story of the baldness of being forced was something more universal, and the threshold was not solely external, but located on the body. The experience of ghost rape challenged this idea. This idea. When we take seriously the life, I'm sorry, guys. When we take seriously the life reality of rape without bodies, it points us to a concept of rape which happens to the whole person. In a context like northern Uganda, law has minimal but still some sway over sexual ethics. Perhaps increasingly so, and social norms are always evolving. The experiences of alkali women considered in the article suggest that we are not just physical beings nor solely relational beings, even in highly collaborative societies. Aspects of our being are immaterial, symbolic, conscious, and subconscious. Cahill has written that subjects do not have bodies, subjects are bodies, but the experiences reflected on here suggest we take a view which includes but is not limited to bodies but beings. The stories of non-corporal rape reminded me to consider alkali notions of good existence, which are deeply social and spiritual as well as individual. Rape might better be understood if we reimagine. I'm sorry, guys. There is some form of interference, and I can't read properly. I will try my best, but there is just like spiritual interference again. Oof. Okay. Rape might better be understood if we reimagine it as a sexual trespass on the boundaries of the being. In using the concept rape, there are a variety of things that may be interested in doing. That one may be interested in doing. Quantifying the scope and scale of sexual violence, knowing the prevalence, prosecuting, repairing, or something else. I'm suggesting here a way of reimagining rape and not necessarily advocating for specific changes in legal or methodical definitions. It is not at all clear, for instance, that bringing spectral rape into legal definitions would be desirable. Almost certainly it would not be. However, in noting the ways that different aspects of being come together to constitute the experience of rape, we may perhaps move to a fuller imagining of what it is, and therefore fashion a concept of it that better reflect the human experience and not just a Western feminist experience. So she's basically not getting too deep into it. She's barely touching the surface, to be honest. But she's encouraging people to look into this ghost rape. I was actually hoping she would be more specific, but anyways, so what she's trying to say is this spectral rape, right? Spectral. So rape without bodies, and the most important thing that she's stressed on basically is that rape is when your boundaries are broken, right? When your boundaries are being trespassed, right? When the boundaries of your being is being trespassed. For example, when people people do things that is not right, when people take away your rights. For example, you have a right to own your space, but people take away that. People take that away. That is rape. When you have a right to own your own, when you have a right to your own possessions, right, your own physical possessions, and people assume, they adopt the belief, they assume that they own it as well. They touch your things, they use your things without your permission, they take your things without asking you first, without consent. That is rape, right? We need to understand that. We need to understand that the violation of your boundary is rape. Whether it's sexual or not, that's rape. So I think I'm going to end there. If you want to join me for dance therapy, where I will be exploring somatic approach towards narcissistic abuse recovery and immunity, please join me in 20 to 30 minutes, where I'll be guiding you and doing a demonstration as well of how to explore movement, how to use movement to direct ourselves, to shift our mind and our psychological being, our astral being, our entire existence, to shift our entire being and experience, to shift our entire being, out of the abuse, out of the trauma, to up level our vibrations, to disconnect ourselves from lower vibrational energy, from lower vibrational beings, from negative people, from toxic people, from disgusting people. So we can do that by raising our vibrations, by raising our spirits, by raising our mind, by transcending, by reaching a level of divinity, by not letting things get to us so easily, by being more resilient, by being more wise, by being more wise when we are facing adversity. So I'll also be sharing a video, a performance video, a dance or circus or performing arts video, where you can see, you can experience, you can you can see, you can, what do you call it, you can see for yourself, and you can also learn to expand your consciousness, to expand your ability, your ability to recognize possibilities, to expand your consciousness and your range of possible reactions and response, and your possibility, your possibility to expand possibilities for you. When you are able to see that people are able to move in different ways, that so many dimensions of movement are accessible to you, that there are so many different kinds of creative movement, there are so many different kinds of expressions and characters and ways of moving our body, ways of using our body to heal ourselves, right? There are so many ways we can explore the space around us, that it can really makes you. And when you do explore these many possibilities in your physical movements, physical expression, and physical space exploration, then you can actually, you can actually subconsciously push your mind towards a bigger, a higher level of consciousness, where more possibilities are accessible to you, where you're more open to new possibilities, new options, new responses, and more insights. More a higher intelligence. You're able to up level your intelligence. So if you want to join me for dance therapy, join me in 20 to 30 minutes. I'll be preparing for after the end of this video for that. So I hope this video was helpful for you. If it is, please like, share, and subscribe. And I do live streams every Wednesday, GMT 10 a.m. And if you want to join me for an exclusive live stream, I will be reading the book on the dark side of personality and chapter 5. This week's chapter will be on everyday sadism. So we will be exploring the topic of sadism in narcissism, Machiavellianism, and psychopathy. So sadism in all those three dark triads of personality disorders, right? The three dark triads, which is narcissism, Machiavellianism, and psychopathy. So that is what the book is all about, the three dark triads or the dark side of personality, right? And I will be dissecting this book. I will be reading to you the book and I will be dissecting it. I will be commenting on it on Friday, every Friday at GMT 10 a.m. At my Patreon page, right? And you can find the link to my Patreon in the description of this video. So if you want to join the exclusive live stream where I'll be dissecting books, where I'll be reading out books and commenting on them and guiding you through by reading out books to you for your narcissistic abuse recovery and immunity, please join my Patreon page. Please become a patron at my Patreon page and support me at Patreon in the link in the description below on Friday, GMT 2 a.m., the exclusive live stream. So that's all for today. And there's also dance therapy 11. I think it's 12 or 11, but another dance therapy session is also available at my Patreon page this Friday, GMT around 3 or 4 a.m. after the exclusive live stream. So join me for that if you want, and I'll just end here now. Stay mindful, peaceful, and powerful, and may inner peace be with you. I'll see you around. Bye. Have a lovely day.